There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
What's up, and welcome into week 3 of the program Roundup. I'm Patrick Hertzberger. Joined with me is Ryan Tyson and Mark Hall. We are here to talk about all of the big college football games of the week, and we are sponsored by our friends of the Fan Stop. Go to their website right now. The link is in the description. The link is in the comments, and use our promo code PGUYZ for 15% off of their polos or their shirt of the month club. Guys, week 3 thoughts. Ryan, we'll start with you.
Well, so we are recording this on a Sunday evening, and I was not one of the I got to break the fourth wall, got to start it out. I was not one of the lucky people who stayed up till 2:30 a.m. to watch the end of this Colorado game, but everyone is talking about the Colorado game, so I feel like maybe we should start there. Are we good with that?
And I wasn't going to bring up Colorado this week. And like last week, I was thinking about it, and I was like, we're not talking about Colorado. We've talked about Colorado the last 2 weeks. And then Lil Wayne comes out in Boulder and starts singing to the entire crowd. And I'm like, from that moment, I knew we had to talk about Colorado again this week.
Yo, just Kawhi Leonard was there, and like, that dude doesn't show up to anything. So like, I don't understand.
Especially not games in San Antonio.
No, absolutely not. So I don't understand why he was there. It's super strange. I guess we should talk about the actual game though. So Colorado played Colorado State in a quote unquote rivalry game that I did not know was a rivalry game. Mostly because I've never watched, other than this year, a single game of the Colorado Buffaloes or whatever they are.
About to say, there's a ton of Ram It In fans that are going to be upset with you on that.
I know. So Colorado comes into the game as, I believe, 24-point favorites, 24.5, somewhere around there. Somewhere around there it falls, depending on where you look. I was expecting a beatdown from Colorado. That is not what we got. We got a drag out, nasty fight. And let me tell you guys, while I was up for it, I didn't make it the whole game. While I was up for it, it was a lot of fun. I was having a really good time. These teams were not treating each other well, and I was having a great time. I was like, this is messy. This is ridiculous. Both these teams are bad, but I don't care. I'm having a great time watching it. So those are my feelings. I think that the fact that Colorado ended up winning into a double overtime is hilarious, and that they are now a 21-point underdog to Oregon next week. And I think that's all you need to know about how this game went.
So I've got two things. One, good for Colorado, right? That's obviously way more chaotic than it should have been. And as an extension of number one, good for Colorado, but also what happened to Travis Hunter doesn't need to happen.
That's terrible.
You can be salty about the way Colorado runs their business. I get it. I don't know how I would feel if I was a team playing them, right? But you don't do something like that. That's ridiculous. That's uncalled for no matter what. And two, more to the present and forward facing piece of it is, I've been saying for 2 or 3 weeks now, once you get some film on Colorado, let's see what happens to Colorado. It's still a good story. Let's still see what happens moving forward. But all of a sudden, the Coach Prime shine has gotten a little bit dulled because it took you 2 overtimes to beat a team you were wildly favored by. And your son didn't look quite so hot at quarterback as he had the last 2 games. Obviously, 21-point favorites going into the Oregon game. They're not favored. They're not expected to be really even in the game. What do you have to flip the script moving forward? That's not just an amazing hat, sunglasses, and vibe that gets Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson around for no reason at all.
Yeah, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson being there was just hilarious.
I mean,
Look,
he was the celebrity guest picker on
Yeah.
College Game Day, which like, okay, that's why he was there, but also like, why is he the celebrity guest picker?
that
Well,
and
and then
also
he's
he was
on
in
the
the locker
sideline.
room. He was on the
Yeah,
locker
it was-
room before the game
It was on the
with the team.
sideline. I don't. he
Lil
was
Wayne
next-
brings him out. Offset's around.
Offset was there.
Surely that doesn't last through both overtimes, right? That's not something where
No.
you're cutting for the last play of the game and Offset is chewing on his nails.
I also need to bone the pick with whoever decided that this was the primetime game to start at 8 p.m. Colorado time. That is ridiculous. Like, that's too late. Like, especially like for East Coasters, man. Prayers for the people who stayed up to 3:30 Eastern time, I think. Pat, you're on the West Coast. Did you watch it all?
No, because that was Central Time. Unfortunately,
yeah.
I was definitely keeping up with the game, but
well,
Colorado did win that game 43-35 in double overtime. That was the final score of the game. Anything else on the Colorado game?
Nothing. But I just think they're going to get smashed by Oregon.
I think they cover. I think they can get up for any game that comes their way, and I won't be surprised if Colorado beats any of the good teams on their schedule this year. I just won't be surprised about it. They've got the vibes.
You have more faith. Did you watch the same game that I did yesterday?
Yeah. Look,
Okay.
I think they're going to get up to their competition. I think they're going to play hard against anyone they play.
Okay.
I think they have that
Without
factor.
Travis Hunter, who's going to be out
that is going to
the
be
next
tough.
2 weeks, which their next 2 weeks are, correct me if I'm wrong here, at Oregon and then USC, I believe.
I believe that's right.
Yeah.
Without
It's
Travis Hunter.
why immediately they had to go ahead and put game day in Boulder. Because
Oh yeah.
what if you don't?
That's a good
and then you're
point.
coming off this game.
That's a good point. I was wondering why they wouldn't wait, but that's why, because they're going to probably drop their next two.
Right.
Yep. All right, guys, I'll bring it up. Tennessee loses to Florida 29-16. My Tennessee Volunteers. We hadn't beaten Florida for 15 years in Florida. Yesterday, the Tennessee Vols thought that was going to be the day. We were finally going to do it. Didn't happen. Joe Milton has the strongest arm in college football, and that's about it. That's about all he has. He's kind of bad, and Tennessee looked like frauds. I have to call it like it is. I don't like calling it like it is, and I have the utmost faith that Heupel and this Tennessee Volunteer team can still make it a great season, and he probably will. It is Josh Heupel. He's amazing, but that's where I'm at. I'm sad about yesterday, but I'm very optimistic still.
Yeah, let me take this.
Go.
I was, I think, appropriately, funly dismissive of the Joe Milton thing all off season, Pat.
Yeah.
And it's not anything personal. It's that he's a fifth year senior who has never really put it all together and has had chance after chance after chance at multiple places, gotten beat out for jobs, wasn't better than Hendon Hooker last year, yada, 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 on and on and on, and now has a 5-star behind him. There's just other stuff going at Tennessee. You have to be successful, and we haven't seen him be successful yet. It's one thing to have the strongest arm in college football. It's another thing to put it together on the field, and the team is built around the ability for the quarterback to be successful on the field. Joe Milton has all the tools, no doubting that. But at what point do you need to see it all come together in a bigger, higher, enhanced way before it's like we move on to Nico, who's a 5-star?
I think he's got one more week, honestly, or like one more game that they should win that's tight or they lose. I think he comes in.
That's Volunteer Pat on the call.
Right. Ryan, anything on that game?
I didn't watch the whole thing. One of the funniest like videos that I saw was at the end when they were trying to like draw up to each other and like try to like punch each other. Did you see this? They looked like boxers at the very end.
Oh
it's one
God,
of
when they're squaring
yeah,
up,
it's one of the funniest things. I'm sorry,
realizing
Pat,
what he's walking into.
Like, I know it was like during the very end of the game, but I was watching that and I was like, this is a mess. It's like this is like a hot
No, it was
mess.
so good. I've
It's great. It's
never
great
seen that on a
content.
football field.
It's great
I've
content.
never seen anything
Um,
like that before.
But and then another thing that stuck with me was Josh Heupel calling a timeout with 6 seconds left when they're down by 13. And just being like
Respect.
no, he's just being
Respect.
a dick. Like, he's like, this game is over. It's like officially over. But he's like, I'm still gonna call this timeout. And then that's when the boxing started. Incredible last like 6 seconds to that game. That's all I'll say.
Heupel told his guys, go let them know. Go let them know. Yeah, you won, but we're unhappy about it.
It is a big rivalry game. Speaking of rivalry games, a new one may have formed in South Florida as
Oh,
well.
Jesus.
Alabama.
Amazing. Amazing.
Alabama only beating South Florida 17-3. 3-3 in the third quarter, folks. The score was 3-3 in the third quarter. Nick Saban rolls out with two new quarterbacks, Tyler Buchner as well as Ty Simpson, and both
Buckner.
of them Buckner. Yep. And both of them are really bad.
And it's really something that he goes straight to third stringer Ty Simpson instead of reverting back to the guy that you named your starter week 1, Jaden Milroe, the guy who was your starter all throughout camp. It's really something we haven't seen in Alabama in, correct me if I'm wrong, ever during the Saban era, where we're 3 weeks now into the season and he's got a quarterback crisis on his hands that other teams deal with. Bama never deals with this. The Tua thing was a calculated move late, last possible half of the season, right? This is not from a position of strength at all. This is absolute mismanagement because there were quarterbacks in the transfer portal. If Alabama wants Sam Hartman, I promise you can get the boosters together and go get Sam Hartman. And instead, they roll the dice with Jaden Milroe. They roll the dice bringing in Tyler Buchner. And I don't know Ty Simpson very well, but obviously not ready. Whatever it is, not ready. South Florida holding him to 5 of 9 passing. It seems like for the first time, Saban and that staff, Tommy Rees, they've mismanaged that quarterback position to possibly an unsalvageable state.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went off there.
No. I pretty much I agree with everything you said. I think I did not watch this game. But the flashes that I saw,
Ryan, damn it.
I didn't. I'm
playing.
Guys, we have like 10 games on here. There's no way we could have watched all of them. But maybe you guys did. I don't know. I will say that of the highlights I saw, like Buchner made some of the worst throws I've ever seen. Just like some of the really, really like really tough throws that like I think there is something right now wrong with the quarterback room in Alabama so much that their confidence is just completely like dead in the water. And I think that's why you see them going, and I don't think this helps, but I think that's probably why you see them going to Ty Simpson instead of going back to Milroe is, they're like, okay, well, we have to go to this because maybe Milroe's confidence isn't there because we pulled him. We pulled him from the starting gig for this one for this guy who can't like throw it all, essentially. And then in turn, you're probably hurting the confidence of Milroe even more. So like, what are you doing? What are you going to do next week when you play Ole Miss? Like they're playing Ole Miss next week. Ole Miss is a good team. Like I am interested to see what happens there. I think every Alabama fan right now, just the ones at least I've seen on Twitter, which is not all of them, but they're going through some
we see.
They're going through some things right now that they have never gone through. And it's new for them. And it's new and everybody is like, oh, well, they'll figure it out. Will they figure it out? They don't seem like they have a lot of talent at the quarterback room. And we'll see what happens. But maybe Saban can pull something out of his hat. I'm not really sure, but it doesn't look good right now.
Yeah, it
At
doesn't
some
look.
point, Jason McClellan can only do so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't look good at all. Tyler Buckner going 5 for 14 and 34 yards that game. It's just atrocious. Ryan, like you said, it wasn't even him.
Atrocious.
It wasn't even him. Like, oh, I haven't learned the offense. Like the passes were bad.
It was like, yeah, it's just he looked lost. He looked, at least the highlights I saw, he looked lost. He looked just like shattered up there. He just looked like he had never like played like an actual collegiate game of football, even though like we know he has. Like it was a weird thing. It was weird. It was strange, and it was South Florida.
Yeah,
It's
and
like this shouldn't be a game.
I was watching the game before we hopped on here, and the USF defensive line was moving that offensive line back. Like you could vividly see them push the Alabama line back hard. I was
So
shocked.
weird.
And there's too much talent up front in Tuscaloosa for that to be the case. There's something broken in that offensive room where they don't have their identity yet, and the guys aren't sure what to do, and you can see it play out on the field.
Yep. Anything else on that game before we move on? Mark, why don't you tell everyone a bit more about our friends at the Fan Stop before we get into the next game?
Oh my gosh. You know, as always, that the program Roundup is brought to you by the Fan Stop. You can get your officially licensed tees, long sleeves, and hoodies delivered monthly with their college fan shirt of the month club. I know that they have a particular phrase and I'm never going to get it right, but please forgive me, fellas. They have approximately 50 schools offered. They go up to 5XL in their sizes. Shipping and taxes are already included in the price. Plans start at $21.95. That's going to get you your regular t-shirt every single month. They show their design on their Facebook page every single month, so you can see what's coming your way. A few dollars more from that is going to get you your long sleeves, your hoodies, everything else that they offer you. Obviously, like I said, plans start at $21.95 a month, and you can save 15% per month with our code for the first 3 months, not all year. Come on, guys, don't get greedy. For the first 3 months with our code PGUYZ, that's PGUYZ. That's PGUYZ. You can also save 15% on their new officially licensed game day polos. I've seen these in action. They look good. They feel good. They've got all sorts of schools on there. Probably the same 50 schools that I said before. You can also save 15% on those with our code PGUYZ. That's PGUYZ. 15% on the college game day shirt of the month club and the game day polo. What a better deal than that? Like, you can't ask for anything more than that.
Yeah, really, really cool shirts and awesome polos as well. Guys, there was a team that the media told us was going to be good, that the media told us could win the Big 12.
Where are we going with
15th
this?
ranked team in the nation, Kansas State, headed into Missouri this week, and they drop the game. Missouri beating Kansas State 30-27 with a walk-off field goal of 61 yards. What do you guys think about that in Kansas State?
So this is going to be like a larger conversation, I think. Not like super in depth, but the Big 12 is bad. Like the like straight up. Like they're not good. We're going to talk about a couple other games, I think, on this list that are going to come up with the Big 12, but like everybody outside of OU in Texas, which is so comical to me, is really not good in the Big 12. Kansas State was supposed to be the different team. They were supposed to be like the one outside of OU in Texas that like had the chance to get there. They just were coming off a Big 12 championship last year. They had all the pieces in place, and they go into Columbia and they play a not great Missouri team with a bad coach, and they get beat. And they get beat by a 61-yard field goal, which is hats off to that kicker.
Kick.
Hats
oh my god,
that
kick
kicker.
was awesome.
Because that is stuff you see NFL kickers miss in domes quite frequently. And like 61 yards outside, like impressive for college. I think I heard it was the longest completed 60 field goal in SEC history or something along those lines. We're talking about a massive kick here, And the fact that they had a false start penalty that brought them back to that 61, they were supposed to kick a 56 and they ended up kicking a 61 and he still made it. Man, I know we have some like ulterior motives for wanting Missouri to not do well, but like good job to that kicker. Like, good shit.
Awesome
that's
kick.
awesome. That's awesome. What a way to like win for your team. Kansas State, you have to be better than that. Like, this is not a great Missouri team. You have to be better. Like, and it's just not acceptable for the Big 12 to be just losing. Every team is losing except for OU and Texas. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's funny, but it's ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing that I'm noticing is Will Howard has a pretty good game. You can't, I mean, you can't put the game at his feet because he has a pretty good game. 25 of 39, 270 yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception. But you look at his playmakers. Leading rusher has 54 yards. Leading receiver has 78 yards. You look on the other side at the same kind of thing. Luther Burden III, 7 catches for 114 and 2 touchdowns. Brady Cook doesn't even have to do anything. He's got his guy right there. There's 79 yards, 72 yards. 3 dudes in the same range as the leading receiver for the Kansas State receivers. So you can see this Kansas State Wildcat offense missing the impact of a guy like Deuce Vaughn, who's now making plays in the NFL, where, Will Howard is playing and he's balling out. There's nothing against Will Howard, but who's he throwing the ball to and who can he rely on to make plays in a hostile environment? Even like Columbia. Not to down on Columbia, but it's hey, they were enough for K-State to not overcome. So that's the thing to look out for that team, because to your earliest point there, Ryan, it seems like we're going back to a throwback Big 12 year, a classic 2016 kind of season here where you've got OU and Texas on a collision course to see who is able to establish the Big 12 dominance this season on their way out. That's personally very exciting and very fun, but if you're a K-State fan, this is a tough loss.
Yeah, it's
Brady,
real tough.
Yeah, Brady Cook, the Missouri quarterback, was booed when he took the field by his own Missouri fans and pulled out the win for them. So hopefully they do not boo him next week.
It's just it's comical, guys. It's comical. It's just like,
You'll see the
fact that the AP just came out and the only 2 teams from the Big 12 that are there, OU and Texas, and they had to tweet that out today. It was just so good. Anyway, sorry.
Did y'all see it's a few weeks old now, but did you guys see the video that Mizzou football put
Yes,
out?
the god awful.
How to cheer.
Oh, it's so bad.
No, but I appreciate it. If your fans aren't rowdy, call them out.
No,
Patrick, this is not what
here's
this
what I
was.
need you to do is green screen this while it's going and just like give the details as you're watching it the first time you're watching it. It is an incredible thing. It is. To think a 5-star picked that place is something else to me.
We need a raw reaction from Patrick on the green screen, please.
Hey, I'll get on that. Last thing I have on Missouri is Harrison Mevis, the kicker we're speaking of, who hit that 61-yard field goal, is 5'11", 243 pounds. Dude could play linebacker.
Monster.
That's just crazy. 243 pounds.
Huge.
He is huge. His
I
post-game
love a
interview.
big kicker so much.
Same.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hold on. Even though he made the game-winning play, why are we interviewing a kicker? That dude is not prepared. He's like, I just gotta trust my guys up front. Yeah, every play, dude. You're a kicker.
We're gonna stick with the Big 12 discussion here because we should touch on BYU beating Arkansas 38-31. Arkansas had 140 more total yards than BYU in that game as well, but BYU pulls out the win. If I'm Texas or OU, I don't want to play BYU because they are a team that can upset anyone. Ryan,
we're OU is playing BYU in Provo. Thank you.
Provo. Yep.
Pronto. LOL.
Yep.
Yeah. That's so that upset potential. However, I don't think BYU is that good. I watched a little bit of this game. I think both these teams are bad. It was just like a lot of these games this weekend were just like two bad teams going against each other. I felt like, and Arkansas had like every opportunity to take this game. You know, like you said, Pat, they had 140 more yards of offense, and they just didn't. They just couldn't do it. And I am not that concerned about BYU at this moment.
Good to know. Mark, what are your thoughts on that game?
I just want to remind Ryan that currently he's an unbiased
Oh, yes.
observer.
Sorry.
So
Yes, I am.
here's the thing that's hey, impressive to me is BYU going into SEC territory and stealing a win. That's sort of if that was another certain team that does wear crimson and cream, we would be touting that as readiness for the SEC. That's just, we would absolutely be stoking that fire. So it's really something for BYU to be able to go in there. That's a tough environment. We've seen Arkansas be rocking before. Little Rock is crazy sometimes. And you ever think KJ Jefferson might be one of those guys who should have left a year before he did? Because he's got the kind of athleticism and the kind of arm that a quarterback coach can talk themselves into, but you give him too many times to show too many flaws, and suddenly you're not that enticing raw prospect anymore. That feels like it's happening a little bit to me.
Definitely. 100% agree. Anything else on the BYU Arkansas game? All right, I'm going to go through three games really, really quick. You can comment on the one you'd like to comment on. Miami of Ohio beats Cincinnati 31-24. Miami of Ohio beating the new Big 12 incomer team, Cincinnati.
First loss for the Bearcats at home in like 5 or 6 years.
This is a tough
6 or
one
7.
for them.
Long time.
Yeah,
which
long
isn't
time.
good for Oklahoma going in there next week after that loss. Also, 2 FCS teams beat 2 BCS teams. South Alabama beats Oklahoma State 33-7, and Sacramento beats Stanford 30-23. Any comments on any of those 3 games? Man, Oklahoma State's in a rough place.
Yeah, this is the worst loss for Oklahoma State since Gundy has been head coach, and potentially ever. I don't know. I don't know the history of Oklahoma State that intensely.
That's a fun math to go through.
But Gundy's been there a while, and this is the worst loss. Like this is embarrassing. It's an embarrassing loss. And to do that at home, like they were at Oklahoma State and they got ran out of the building 33-7 by an FCS opponent. I think they paid them. I saw a tweet that they paid them $300,000 to be there.
Yeah,
they paid South Alabama $300,000 to be there to destroy them on their home field. I don't know how you come back from that. I don't. So I'm interested to see what happens to the Cowboys this year. But this is the lowest that they have been since I can remember.
How you come back from that is moving head coach Mike Gundy into a senior football advisor role and bringing in some fresh blood. I think that he's the man is set in his ways and is kind of over the whole thing, and you just can't move a program forward that way.
If you're an Oklahoma State fan, are you there? Do you want Mike Gundy to maybe step away? I think I would be there.
Everything that I've seen is yes, that they want him.
Yeah.
It's stagnant, and that he's never taken them. They've gotten close. He's never taken them to exactly the top on where they could have been a couple times with the talent that they had. And he's definitely not going to do it probably from now on. Like we are in the deep valley of whatever is happening in Stillwater, and you got to cut the roots out. And I think that probably starts with Gundy.
Great way to put it.
Yep.
Patrick, one last game that I think we might have missed on the outline. We got to talk about South Carolina going into Athens and what?
Yeah, I mean,
You're
I
making
wasn't
a face
gonna
at
miss
me.
it. I was saving
Yeah,
the best for
okay. Well, you
last.
might have missed it there, buddy.
No.
South Carolina going into Athens and ultimately losing 14-24. But let me tell you the thing that stuck out the most to me, and then I'll open it up to you guys. It's a tale of two halves for quarterback Spencer Rattler, because Spencer Rattler ultimately goes 22 of 42, and that looks okay. But that's a 16 of 18 first half where they take a 14-3 lead in the halftime, and then 6 of 24 on the back end in the second half where they lose 21-0 over the last two quarters. That says the entire thing, right? That says the entire thing. Were you guys able to catch much of this game, and what do you think?
This is Spencer Rattler tied up in a nutshell for me. I mean, you can't, and it's also Kirby Smart tied up in a nutshell too. Like, Kirby's not going to let you win that second half. It doesn't matter really who you are, to be honest. But man, Georgia being down 14-3 at half is just surprising as well. The fact that they weren't ready for that game, it's crazy to me. It's crazy. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, they weren't ready for it, but they do, like, they showed the Georgia that they are in that second half. Like, I didn't really have, when I saw it was 14-3 at half and it was at Georgia, I was like, oh, this is weird. I was like, this is strange. But going into the second half, I remember watching the first drive and they just like went immediately up the field and like scored. And I was like, oh, this is a whole new ball game. I was like, I have no doubt in my mind that they're going to win this game. And then they won the game and they didn't let South Carolina score again. And like you heard Mark say, 6 of 24 in the second half for Spencer Rattler. I mean, like, I think that's more on what Georgia is capable of than what Spencer Rattler is capable of. Because I think Georgia just decided at halftime, and maybe got a talking to from Kirby, that was basically like, we are not playing like ourselves. We need to switch that and come out and play like we know we can play. And that's what they did. And so they're still number one in the AP poll this week that just came out. I think they still should be number one based on that second half. They're still the ones to beat. And South Carolina had a chance. But the second I saw that first drive in the second half, I was like, this game is over. I just knew it.
Patrick, do you mind if I make one more big point?
Yeah, make all the points.
It is the disparity between the two coaching staffs, because Shane Beamer had his team hyped up and ready to go in the first half of this game, and Kirby Smart didn't, right? Shane Beamer had his guys ready in a way that Kirby Smart just didn't. And then you go into halftime and Kirby Smart and Mike Bobo get the guys ready to make the adjustments. They flip the script a little bit, and you come out and you score 3 rushing touchdowns in the second half at home to put away a team that, despite how the first half goes, clearly by the end shouldn't even be on the same field with you. That's what Georgia is. That's what we've seen Georgia be. And I'm a big Shane Beamer fan. I really like the guy a lot, but he's going to have to surround himself with, I don't know, maybe some more sophisticated X's and O's guys, or maybe it's just getting past the Spencer Rattler era before you can really see change take effect. But something's going to have to change there, because otherwise you're going into halftime and then you're going to lose every second half in these games.
Yep. You do make a good point. Georgia having those 3 rushing touchdowns, their quarterback Carson Beck going 27 for 35, 269 yards, 0 touchdowns in the air. My overall week 3. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Oh, no picks too. That's all.
No picks
too.
You're right.
That's
no
a big
picks.
deal. Yeah.
Yep. Totally. Yeah. My overall week 3 thoughts are: do we know who's really good in college football right now? I mean, Michigan and Ohio State look dominant, but I mean, Georgia is losing at half. Texas is 3-3 against Wyoming in the third quarter. Florida State barely beats Boston College 31-29. It seems like we're in a situation where you have a good quarterbacks on decent teams, or you have bad quarterbacks on great teams right now. And we're really going to see what's better. A great defense, are they going to win you the championship, or is it going to be a great quarterback with a decent team?
Yeah, I think that's the question that everyone's asking right now. And I think we're still too early to really know for sure. You see flashes, right? Like the second half for Georgia, I was like, what team is beating this team? Like partially like that's what I saw in like that second half.
Yeah.
But you're right. They're beatable because you saw what happened in the first half, right? So like I don't know. I think if I was looking at it right now, Michigan looks pretty good. Penn State looks pretty good. Ohio State looks pretty good. They really have not played anybody. Really the only teams that have played significant opponents is, Texas and Alabama played last week, but we still don't know how good Alabama is. And so it's like we're not really sure yet. I think the answer to that question, Patrick, will come in the next 2 to 3 weeks as we start to get into conference play and we start to understand, okay, what are we actually working with these teams? But right now, I think you're right. No one has come out and just been like, oh my God, this is the best team in college football. And I think that's why you see so many, I think 3 or 4 teams have first place votes in the AP poll this week. And I think that's like why you see that is it's kind of like people don't really know yet.
And for that reason, I believe that over the next 2 weeks, Georgia hasn't looked full game against a real opponent, the kind of team that a number 1 team you're expecting to be. I think that we're headed on a proverbial crash course between Michigan and Texas to see who can sort of overtake Georgia. And just the narrative guy in me says Texas ends up number 1 ahead of that week 6 matchup against Oklahoma in Dallas. And that just sets up the best game, the best storyline that you can possibly have, right? Former number 1 recruit Quinn Ewers leading Texas into Dallas against Brent Venables' second year revamped defense. It writes itself. And if they're number 1, it just kind of makes a lot of sense. Texas has Baylor and then Kansas, and Michigan has Rutgers at home, and then they're at Nebraska after that. So both teams are probably going to, they're for sure going to be favored. They're probably going to win, but who can put up the best show? Because maybe Georgia's vulnerable and you can see one of these teams overtake them these next couple of weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think we're going to learn a lot too about Florida State. I know that I said no one really had a significant win. Florida State does have a significant win against LSU, and they play Clemson this week. So this upcoming week, which Clemson is not currently ranked because of their loss a few weeks ago, and it's still going to be an incredibly difficult game. I'm pretty sure it's a pick game, so there's like literally not a favorable or a favorite in that game. So I'm interested to see what happens there and what we see from Florida State, because I think a lot of us bought into it with the LSU victory, and LSU looked good last week. So I think there's something still there, but I think Mark's right on who is going to take it. Like, who is going to be the one from those like probably 4 or 5 right there that we're talking about? Like, who's going to be the one who's like, yes, it's us. Yep. And I don't know who that is. I'm not really sure. I think I have to go with Georgia because they're back-to-back champs. I don't think you can say that Kirby Smart is, not going to have his team like 100% ready. We saw a little bit of a shaky situation in the first half against South Carolina, but then they came out of the gate in the second half and they were good. So like, I think they're still the favorites for me right now, but I'm interested to see what happens over the next several weeks.
One that we didn't talk about today was Florida State and Boston College, but especially looking forward to that Florida State Clemson game next week. If Jordan Travis is able to come back and be the guy we saw pre-injury, right? And then you come back from injury and you play well, but that's heat of the moment kind of stuff. Who knows how your body reacts once you actually take a break, take a rest. That's a different world. If they're able to really make a statement against Clemson, does Florida State also get into that sort of Georgia, Texas, Michigan foursome now that might be building? Because Alabama's lost a game and has looked sloppy in a game since then too. And suddenly that hierarchy is looking a little funky this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking at the best win of the season, a lot of people might say Texas at Bama. I think it's probably it might be FSU LSU. Potentially.
Not
Potentially
on how it shakes
out.
But
I get it actually.
Alabama looked bad this week. LSU dominated Mississippi State, which we don't know how good Mississippi State is, but dominated them. So we don't know. So that's the fun of college football, though. You never know.
Yep. You never know. Florida State is currently -1 as a favorite to win that game against Clemson next week. If you remember the Week 0 podcast, Mark has Florida State to win that ACC, and I have Clemson. So next week, I guess we're going to find out who is right. Before we get to our MVPs, remember, go click the link to thefanstop.com. Use our promo code PGUYZP. Guys, get 15% off their Shirt of the Month Club and 15% off of their polos as well. They are awesome quality. They're really, really cool shirts that you can get every single month. MVPs.
Hey, Pat, while we're here, you should also go to the fanstop.com and look for the Program Guys t-shirt. There's going to be a link in the description for this podcast right here. It's only open through Thursday, September 21st. This is one of your last chances to get it. It's a sick t-shirt design. Check it out. It's in the description. Like I said, $22.95 per t-shirt. That includes shipping. That includes taxes. Get after it. Join the program. Thanks, Pat.
Hey, thank you. All right, MVPs. Mine is Drake May. He's still throwing interceptions, but he went 29 for 40 and over 400 yards for North Carolina. He's keeping them relevant, and they're good. They're good. Ryan, who's your MVP?
I think it's got to be Harrison Mevis with the 61-yard kick from Missouri. I just that's such a statement that no one's done that in the SEC. So good for him. So that's who my MVP is going to be.
Mark?
Yeah, I'm going a little bit off the beaten path here, but I have a personal connection to the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets football program. And let me give my MVP to Brent Key, who took that program into Ole Miss this week. And yeah, they lose 48-23. It doesn't look good. It looks bad. If I wasn't a fan of said program, you're not finding a lot of positives there, but they held up to a lot of the competition. They open up with a 10-0 deficit. That is pretty unfortunate, but then how do you come back from that? They fought back pretty well. They're just outmatched by the competition. I think that Brent Key is the right guy for the job there. He's a former Georgia Tech guy. He's been on the staff at Alabama before, and hopefully you can see a little bit more coming out of there. So maybe a little forward-facing MVP here, but give me Brent Key. Good guy, good coach, my MVP.
Love it. That about does it. Go to thefanstop.com. Go click their link right now. Ryan, take us out.
Keep pushing it, baby.
3, 2, 1.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being